Hey, welcome everyone. This video is going to walk you through simple steps of installing a virtual ASA to work with, practice, and test with. I'm going to show you basically how to get it up and running. I'm going to truncate out the waiting that we wait for installation and show you a couple things to watch out for. In addition, I'll give you some advanced things on how to wire it into a network and make it actually work and play around with some of the interfaces. So first things first, I put the file up in my Dropbox as a zip, but it's actually got to be unzipped, and this is an OVF. So when you look at this, you're going to see individual files. An OVA is a zipped up version of a tarball file of a OVF. In this OVF, we actually have two of them. One is for vCenter and one is for standalone ESXis. We'll be using the standalone one as the proper one for our implementation. So there's some other files in here that have been, kind of prepped, if you will, so they work for you on this platform. It'll work on VMware's Fusion, which is the Mac, which is what I'm running on today. It'll work on Windows Player. Windows Player is free, and it will work on the latest version of Windows Workstation as well. So let's get started. First thing, you're going to download the file, you're going to unzip, and then we're going to launch VMware Fusion, which I have open, a bunch of my VMs here for miscellaneous reasons. I'm going to do the file and import. Some Windows platforms will say import OVA. And then I'm going to choose the file, and you can see I've already practiced them in the background to make sure there were no hangups. I'll navigate to that desktop folder into that ASA file, and I will select the ESXi version and hit open. And it'll show up here. I'll hit continue. Because an OVA or an OVF can be customized, you'll see this logo, acceptance, end user license agreement. You have to accept that. And then when you build this, make sure you choose the smallest one, because that's going to dump it down to one processor, 2 gigs of RAM. And you can see that one processor, 2 gigs of RAM. This one's a maximum throughput of 1 gig. And then this one's a maximum throughput of 2 gigs, but you don't have a license, so you're going to be limited to like 100 kilobits a second. So it doesn't matter. So take the smallest one here so you don't use many resources up on your machine. Hit continue. Decide where you're going to save it. And then you're going to get 10 interfaces. They don't show them all here, but there's 10. 0 through 8, which is 9 interfaces, and the management interface. And then I recommend before you hit finish, which will launch it, I prefer that you don't actually boot it up yet and you hit customize settings. Again, a little bit different to do on a Mac than Windows, but you can do the same thing. So the first thing to do is to make sure you check that the processors didn't give more than you have and you look okay. We're only using one processor and 2 gigs of RAM, so that looks fine to me. And then the next thing is figuring out which one of these is the management interface for the ASA, which ones are interface 1, 2, and 3, 4, etc. And it's pretty easy. All you gotta do is open the network adapter up, and in the Mac you have to click advanced. Once it's booted, you're gonna have a MAC address here, okay? The first time it's booted. And you can correlate those MAC addresses to the actual interfaces in the box. So let me close this window. Here's our ASA. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and give it a start. And it's going to recognize that it's a virtual platform and that it's on its first boot. It's going to configure itself and then it's going to reboot again. So let's watch it. By the way, you're going to get this error about the IDE file not being available. That's okay. Just hit OK and say no to connecting it next time. We don't need it. So it comes up to kind of a grub loader like a Linux box does. You can either click in the window and hit enter, or you can just wait the 8 seconds or so it takes for it to time out. Here you can see initial boot up detected right down here, and it's going to reboot after it sets all the system variables. It's doing things like setting some of those MAC addresses, for example, configuring where things are and what type of resources there are. You can see it's validated down here. We have 10 NICs available. So it's on its actual reboot now. It's installing platform type has been successful. It will recognize when we get in there that it does not have a license and will be restrictive, but again, this is a learning exercise. So it is 9.4, which is current enough to be able to do most things that you want to do. So wait the 8 or 9 seconds here it takes for this to time out a second time. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie the management interface into my wireless network that is live on this Mac right now, so I can show you can actually get to the interface and manage the ASA in order to learn. So this time you see we got a lot less errors. We got actually no errors, and we've got a lot of commands that look like a normal boot process. So that's a good thing. When we get to the command prompt, we are in our ASA and it's up and running. So I'm going to type enable, hit enter. There's no passwords. I'm going to show int, and you can see we have interfaces here. I'll show you which ones we have. I'll do show int pipe include interface capital I, and it'll just show us some interfaces. And we have interfaces 0 through 8, that's 9, plus management 0, 0. So if I do show int m00, we can see that this has a MAC address, if I get my mouse back, of 000 Charlie 29493 Bravo 31. So if I go into my gear and I select one of these interfaces, let's just say this one, and I go to advanced, well, that's not the right one, okay? So I happen to know it's going to be your first one on most of the platforms. So if I go into here and I hit here, you can see that matches that MAC address. So now I know this network card here, this first one, is my management interface. So if I wanted to configure this to be on a different interface or something, which we're going to do in a minute, I know which one to select. Additionally, you're going to see that the state is unlicensed, so it's going to have some limitations. You'll see that again later on. So what we have to do is basically take this interface and put it on my Wi-Fi network. And my Wi-Fi network's at 192, so I'm just going to go into, very easy, config T. I'll say no for helping them improve the product. This is a demo. I'll go into int m00. I'll give it an IP address, 250, 251, and a subnet mask. There you go. I will give it a no shut. Oh, wait, you gotta give it a name if. Name if, I'll call it MGMT. That's naming the interface, and by default it'll give it a 0. And I will no shut it. I should be able to ping, and the ping command for ASA is ping the interface you want to use by name and the IP address you want to ping, and that's my firewall on my real network. So this box is actually pinging through. Now let me see if I go out and open a terminal window here on my Mac, and they're black on black, so we'll just move one of them over. And here's my terminal window, and I'm going to try to ping 192.168.250, 251, and I can ping it. So from my Mac, I can get to this. Now, to enable access to it through the normal means over the network, you basically have to do three more things. You have to HTTP server enable, turns on the HTTPS server. HTTP 0, that means anything. 0, that means anything. And the name of the interface is MGMT. And then I'll do SSH, same thing, MGMT. I do an end, I do a write, it saves the file, and now I should be able to get to this through, for example, I'll just do the ASDM. So I would, if I don't have it installed already, you would just go to the browser to it. I have it installed already. Let me just see if I can get to the browser through it. Let's go HTTPS 168.250.251. And I will continue to the website, and my machine doesn't like me, and then I can install the ASDM launcher. You can just hit OK, continue through the certificate warning, and we have, voila, from my Mac across the Wi-Fi to that box, I can now access this ASA. I want to show you one more thing. If you have the Pro version of Workstation or Fusion, you can actually configure your network, so to speak. So let me go into here, and I go into networks, and I can make up new networks. So let me unlock this, and I can make up a new network, And I'm going to say allow virtual machines to this network to connect to external. I'm going to say no on that. Connect it to the host, provide a DHCP. So you can make it a DHCP network. I could say no, but I call this VMnet 10. Maybe this VMnet 10 is my special connection for my DMZ, and I want to pretend I set up a DMZ. And I'll just hit apply. And then that creates it in the application. Now I gotta go back to my virtual machine, which is this guy, edit it, decide which NIC card I want, and you would go through the process of finding the MAC address, and set this on the VMnet 10 down here. I would click that. It would then assign that NIC card to be on that network. And if you then took another virtual machine and connected its NIC card to that network, you basically have done this. So what I have is an ASA, virtual ASA with 10 NICs. This NIC is my management. And my other NIC, let's just assume I've got G00, okay? So we know that I connected this onto the Wi-Fi network. My real Wi-Fi network, and the internet's out that way. But this one we connected to VMnet 10, I believe it was. Let me just check that. Yes, VMnet 10. So that's an isolated network. Now you could put your Mac on there, your Windows box, you can roll up another virtual machine. So if I made a new virtual machine, let's say Win 7, a nice small Win 7, gave it one NIC and connected its NIC to this network and decided what my IP range was going to be, I could then maybe take another one of these networks, let's say, actually I would probably do it more like this, and I would name this one with that nameif command inside, and I'd nameif this one outside, and I would tie this also to my Wi-Fi and give it the default gateway out that way. And then I could actually set up a real management type of scenario where this Win 7 needs to get to the internet. And I'd have to make rules that NAT it and that allow it out, etc., etc. So it's a good lesson to try and see if you can be successful at it. So there it is, your virtual ASA. It will limit you to about 100 kilobits per second, but it should work, and it should work the way you expect. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.